Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Reckless Paradise Podcast. I'm your host, Dystro, and tonight's episode is a Throwback Thursday episode. And also, welcome to the first week of June, and well, happy June, everyone. So, this one was a requested one, and I figured, this is a pay-per-view that's very synonymous with, SmackDown 6 era, WWE, whatever. We're looking at SummerSlam 2002. This took place on August 25th, 2002 at the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, New York. So, this was a highly regarded pay-per-view, mostly for one reason, and I think Marissa had picked this regarding the match between Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and that's what kind of kickstarted their on again off again feud between both the competitors. The event held wrestlers from Raw and SmackDown, and the first SummerSlam following the introduction of the brand extension, which has been highly regarded in the years following it and all that stuff too. Two of the main matches on that show was the Undisputed Championship match between The Rock and Brock Lesnar, and then that was on the SmackDown side, and then on the Raw side, you had Triple H versus HBK, but we will get to that when we get to it. So, like I said, Rock versus Brock. This is where Lesnar was, had a rocket strapped onto him and just shot to the moon, because he won King of the Ring that year, and then he goes to SmackDown and just runs shop and wrecks shop all over people. And it's actually a good sign of the times for that to happen, because when he first made his debut, he was on the Raw brand, and he didn't really do much of anything on the Raw brand. But then when he went over to SmackDown, and plus he was with Paul Heyman at the time, things started to turn around for Brock Lesnar. He, like I said, he won King of the Ring that year, and then, goes on a huge tear through everybody on the SmackDown roster. But this was where, Rock would enter into a hiatus, go to do the Scorpion King, and go to do movies and all stuff, before he comes back for No Way Out next year. And then we get Hollywood Rock, So then, like I said, go to the Raw side, we have Shawn Michaels, who was just returning from injury, and he's facing Triple H, his longtime best friend. If you know this rivalry, it's because it's featured in 2K15. Because that was a lengthy feud that went on forever. But it gave us some good moments, some good matches between both of them. It culminates in 2004, like 2 years after SummerSlam. But it's like if they had just cut it down maybe like a year or so, I think it would have been fine. But like I said, it was on again, off again between both of them. Some of the other key matches was Rob Van Dam versus Chris Benoit for the IC Championship, Taker versus Test, and then the best opening match in SummerSlam history, which was Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio. The buy rate for this show was 540,000 pay-per-view buys, which is really, really good. It almost held 15,000 in attendance, which is actually really crazy. I actually want to look at the previous SummerSlam to see what it did, because this was that was during the invasion. Okay, so roughly around the same ballpark for the previous year, and then for 2000, I know that blew it out. Oh no, okay, so it consistently stayed the same from 2000, 2001, and then 2002, which is I think that's pretty good. And all three main events were featuring The Rock anyway, so I guess that's a good sign. So this was one of the big four from WWE. It was also the biggest party of the summer. It was also considered part of the big five, along with King of the Ring until its discontinuation after 2002. It was considered to be it's the second biggest event behind WrestleMania, of course. It says with this event, SummerSlam became the first pay-per-view to have events in three major indoor venues in the New York metropolitan area. Madison Square Garden hosted the event in 1988, 91, and 98. Then the Izod Center in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and then here in New York. I said one of the main feuds was Rock versus Rock. Because at Vengeance, Rock defeated Undertaker and Kurt Angle in triple threat to win the Undisputed Championship by pinning Kurt Angle after executing a rock bottom. Says during Rock's WWE Tag Team Championship match against the All-Americans, which was Lance Storm and Christian, Lesnar interfered by nailing Rock's tag partner Hollywood Hulk Hogan with F5 due to Lesnar's interference. Rock and Hogan won the match by DQ, but not the titles. And then it says, Lesnar would put his SummerSlam title shot on the line against Hogan with the added stipulation that if Hogan were to defeat Lesnar, he would face The Rock in a WrestleMania 18 rematch at SummerSlam for the Undisputed Championship. But at the end, Lesnar locked Hogan in a bear hug when Hogan kayfabe passed out. The referee stopped the match. After the match, Lesnar nailed Hogan in the head with a steel chair, causing Hogan to bleed. So then, on the SmackDown after that, the SmackDown before this, Rock took on Chris Benoit in a champion match, which if you can Cast your minds back to 2000. They fought in a WWF Championship match at Fully Loaded in 2000. So like kind of like 2 years after that fact, that's actually kind of cool. Which, Lesnar interfered again in this match. Lesnar taunted The Rock while The Rock was placed in the crippled crossface by Benoit. Rock, however, was able to defeat Benoit falling in a rock bottom. And then the I guess the go home show SmackDown was it was Rock and Edge versus Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. That actually sounds like a pretty good match. Lesnar appeared for another showdown with The Rock, which led to a brawl between the two that ended the show. Um, One of the other key matches, like I said, was the Mysterio versus Angle opening match. Shawn versus Triple H. RVD and Benoit was actually kind of good. That was actually really good too. Let's see. Talk about this. I'll go over the aftermath after a little bit. But on Sunday Night Heat, we had Spike Dudley versus Steven Richards in a 2.5 minute match. Sounds good. So, like I said, opening match was Angle versus Rey Mysterio, one of the best highly regarded SummerSlam opening matches of all time. Then we had Ric Flair versus Chris Jericho, Edge versus Eddie Guerrero, the Americans, Christian and Lance Storm defeated Booker T and Goldust, RVD versus Chris Benoit, Taker versus Test, Shawn Michaels versus Triple H, which I wish it would have went on last, to be honest with you, because if you can recall, by watching that match, all the air got sucked out of the room after Triple H and Shawn, and with Brock versus Rock, you would think, it'd be a big fight feel for that championship, but it didn't really do them any favors, really, because after they had done it, it was like, they're like, oh, okay, like, well, shit, It's very highly regarded because of, Angle and Rey Mysterio, John versus Triple H, Brock versus Rock. Um, I think it's just one of those time capsule moments where it's like, some of these people, they're, either still here or they're no longer in WWE or they're no longer with us. Um, like, like if I just look at this card, Angle, Flair, Eddie Guerrero, Lance Storm, Booker, Benoit, Test, Shawn, Triple H, Brock, and Rock. Well, I guess I wouldn't say Brock, but like Rock, like some of those names, they're not even wrestling anymore, or they're passed away. Whereas you have like Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, Edge, Christian. You have Goldust, RVD still wrestles. Um, I guess in that first category, Taker wouldn't be wrestling anymore too. But Brock is still wrestling. So like that's 6 out of however many names I just said that are still wrestling, and that's crazy. Because I know Ray's like pushing 50s, like early 50s. Um, let's see here. Yeah, early 50s. Yeah, so he's 51. Like he can still go, which is crazy. I think same with Chris Jericho too. No, he's mid 50s. He can still hop off a lion salt, which is actually really good. I know Edge. Yeah, he's early 50s. I think Christian's early 50s too. Yeah, he's early 50s. I know RVD's probably. I know he's like yeah, he's mid 50s. I knew he was mid 50s. I know Goldust, Dustin Rhodes. Yeah, he's late 50s, so he could still go too. It's crazy. I know Rock is yeah, he's about to hit 50, which is crazy. And they can some of those people that I just mentioned, they can still go, and that's the shocking thing. Like if some people were still here, like because like when '04 hits, some of these people that are on this show, they're on that Mania show, but they're like in different avenues in their career. Like Benoit here in '02, like he was Intercontinental Champion, but in '04, he wins the Rumble and he wins the World Championship from Triple H. And then Eddie Guerrero the next year in 2004, he wins the WWE Championship. So like there's a lot of interesting avenues and trajectories like for some of these people. I think plus like I know the following year in '03 for SummerSlam they have their Elimination Chamber match, which to be honest with you, Goldberg should have won that match. To be honest with you, 'cause I actually want to like just look and see like what has changed from 2002 to 2003. So Ray's on Sunday Night Heat, which is crazy. La Resistance versus Dudley Boys. Taker's on that show. Shane McMahon versus Eric Bischoff. Jesus. Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit, Rhino and Tajiri. Okay, so Eddie Guerrero and Benoit on this show. Um, Kurt Angle versus Brock. Okay. Kane and RVD. Okay. Triple H versus Goldberg, Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, and Randy Orton. It's just like it's crazy what a year will do for some people. No, for like I had said, WrestleMania 20 comes around, and like Goldberg, Brock, no, they're both gone. Um, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, they're on the top of their respective brands. Like there's some people that are kind of like on the up and up, um, like going into like the upper mid card, like lower mid card sort of level. Um, but I always say that SummerSlam '02 is like it's just one of those pay-per-views that the SmackDown 6 era of '02 was very, very prominent on that show because it showed you what SmackDown had brought to the table. And if you think about it, like, okay, Angle and Rey Mysterio, that's part of SmackDown. Edge and Guerrero, that's part of SmackDown. Benoit and RVD, it's like, yes, it's Raw versus SmackDown, but they still had a very, very good match. And then Brock versus Rock, it's like, that's technically SmackDown still, but like the writing was on the wall for The Rock because he was about to go do a movie, like I said, and Rock's gonna be an unstoppable monster. Um, I think he holds it until Survivor Series of '02, and then like he faces Big Show for that championship, and that's when Paul Heyman turns on him, and it's just like really. um, but then, like when you look on the Raw side of things, like you have Flair and Jericho, you have the WWE Tag Team Championships, which was Americans versus Booker T and Goldust. You had Taker and Test. You had Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. If you had just like around '02, it's like you don't really have a lot of star power on the Raw side. On the SmackDown side, you have a lot of star power because you're doing crazy pay-per-view quality matches on SmackDown every week. And plus like Edge and Eddie Guerrero, they've always had good matches with each other. And I think this is also where, yeah, this is this was like when like Edge and Kurt Angle had their a really good feud with each other. Um, and this is like when before Rey Mysterio becomes like towards getting up to that upper echelon. Comes kind of like a main eventer, but could be an opening match guy. He could be like in the middle of the card guy, a tag team guy. He's also a really good cruiserweight champion. Um, but yeah, I think it's just crazy that in '02, you know, we didn't know what was going to be of WWE at that time. But when you look at this pay per view and look at the time capsule, like I've said before, I think it's a pretty good, solid show. Like some of the matches, like Angle and Rey Mysterio was like a really good sprint, and like yeah, it was like 9 minutes, but hey, it was a very, very good sprint. I mean, if I was the booker, I would have given Angle and Rey Mysterio like 18 minutes because like they would have like kept the crowd on their feet for the whole freaking thing. Um, and plus, like, yeah, you have Flair and Jericho, Edge and Guerrero, like, you keep those. But I mean, the tag title match, it feels like something you would just have on Raw, which is sad to say, because the tag team division around this time was not very good. um, but like RVD and Benoit were very good. Taker and Test, I guess that could have been for Raw as well. I mean, Shawn and Triple H was, I mean, amazing. Brock and Rock, yeah, like kept it, like a little under 16 minutes, like that's perfectly fine. But yeah, I mean, it's like a very good show for all the good reasons. And yeah, this was actually kind of cool to like kind of look back on this show. Um, I know like in the aftermath of it, like Undisputed Championship was being defended on both shows. But then I know Stephanie, she was the SmackDown General Manager at the time, would have it on SmackDown, and then on Raw, of course, Bischoff awards Triple H the big gold belt. This was the World Heavyweight Championship. Um, and then I know like he would, and then I kind of know that Taker would go to Unforgiven to challenge Lesnar, and then go to No Mercy, which was a SmackDown pay per view at the time, um, to face Lesnar again. And then Shawn would turn full time at Survivor Series, win the championship, and he would only hold it until Armageddon that year, which is a ridiculously long time, or not a long time, but it was a ridiculously short time. Um, so it says, after the broadcasting of the event had stopped after the main event, former WWE Undisputed Champion Rock was visibly angry at the crowd reaction. Rock had faced a negative response from fans during the main event, but he tried to do a post-show speech for the crowd. The fans attending the Nassau Coliseum still booed him. He eventually cut a promo declaring that sing along with The Rock is over. Before taking a 5-month hiatus from WWE, The Rock did not return until late January 2003, where he would turn heel on Hulk Hogan, leading to a WrestleMania 18 rematch at WWE that next year, when he would get his win back on Hogan that year. And I know, like when they did the Rock heel turn, that was when they did the WrestleMania 19 match between Rock and Stone Cold. Um, I mean, when you think about the Rock's heel turn in a nutshell, the Hollywood Rock thing, it's like it was good for what it was. Like, yeah, like he needed to get those wins back over the Rock or over Hogan and Austin. But it's like when you did the Rock and Austin stuff, like he should have like gotten at least one of those wins in the early years of when they were first feuding, to then lead to WrestleMania 17 to get that Austin heel turn thing, and then you have 1-1, boom, the rubber match between both of them at WrestleMania 19 would have been fine. Rock versus Hogan around 2003, it wasn't really as much steez as WrestleMania 18 was, in 2002. Because Hogan around that time was, like he could still take bumps, but he wasn't really one to be a bumping machine. I mean, Rock can take some bumps, as well, but like it wasn't, bump and feed, bump and feed. It wasn't like that. I don't know. It'd be just something to talk about another point. But I will end it here. This is actually a really good look back on 2002 SummerSlam WWE. At the point of like height, and high of popularity and all stuff. Um, so, if you made it to the very end of this video, we do really appreciate it. If you would like to follow us on all social media links in the description below, which will take you to our link tree page, will take you to our Instagram pages, Twitter pages, Catch Red pages on there, gaming YouTube channels on there, and my song of the night tonight, it is going to be Gasoline by Seether. I don't know if I had done it on the last episode or not, but if I did, I apologize. But I'm going to do it again because fuck it, we do things around here differently. So yes, there's a music video for it too. And that is it. And I will see you guys next Thursday. Peace.